The nation, culture, and civilization that had been established on the Word of God and dedicated to the ways of God will begin to depart from the God of its foundation. It will begin subtly at first, but as time goes on, the departure will become more and more blatant and brazen. As the nation and civilization turns away from God, it will turn to idolatry to fill the void. It will deify the material world. Thus it will grow increasingly materialistic and increasingly obsessed with the sensual. Paralleling its progressive descent into idolatry will be an increasing movement toward moral relativism, the discarding of absolute truth. Out of this will come the redefining of truth, reality, and values. A new morality will be introduced that will override the values and ways of God and the biblical moral grounding that had long served as its foundation. As the apostasy continues, the culture will begin progressively driving God out of its public square, out of its government, out of its public discourse, out of the education of its children, out of life itself. That which had once only been practiced in secret, rites of pagan morality and acts that warred against biblical morality, will now begin emerging from the culture's shadows into the open. As the metamorphosis progresses, the culture will turn increasingly coarse, base, harsh, and crude. More and more, it will be marked and permeated by vulgarity, profanity, and debasement. As the departure from God continues, that which was once held sacred, as in marriage, will no longer be held to be so. Increasingly, marriage will be divorced from sexuality. The marital bond will weaken and erode. The weakening will further open the door to the proliferation of sexual immorality, and the proliferation will further weaken the bonds of marriage. As sexuality is divorced from marriage, it will be increasingly transferred from the bedroom to the realm of popular culture, and thus the culture will become increasingly sexualized. Carnal and erotic images and objects of sexual desire will multiply and be put on display. The culture will become saturated with them. A civilization founded on a spirit of consecration will increasingly give itself to a spirit of desecration. As the apostasy deepens, it enters the next stage, the divorcing of sexuality from gender. It will embrace the confusing of male and female. It will enshrine the practice of homosexuality, celebrate that which the Word of God declares as sin, and hold sexual immorality as sacred. As the civilization turns away from God and the sanctity of life is lost, it will embrace and commit the darkest of acts, the destruction of its most innocent, the killing of its children. As the apostasy progresses, the killing of children will move from an act performed in secret and against the law to a practice endorsed from the highest echelons of society and legalized by those in power. The murder of the innocent will now be championed as an unquestionable right, a sacred right, even a sacred act, a sacrament. Dear God, please do not leave America today.